Queerly Beloved by Susie Dumond. This is a lesbian romance novel set in 2013 about a closeted baker who works at a Christian bakery in Oklahoma. But then one day her boss finds out that she's gay and she gets fired. So she loves baking, but she loses this job and she has to pick up a side job. She works part-time at a bar at night, and she starts this side business as a fake bridesmaid for hire, where she loves weddings. She's very romantic, and she goes to these weddings and pretends to be a bridesmaid and helps the bride do whatever needs to be done on the big day. And she quite likes this job at first because, again, she's very romantic, but she starts to have some moral qualms with it. It's set in 2013, before gay marriage was federally legal across the entire United States. It's illegal in Oklahoma at this point in time, and she and her friends are a bit sort of bitter about this. Her friends and family are sort of divided on the marriage issue. Some of them want to get married. She's friends with a couple of gay guy couples who have been together for a while and, want to be married. And then she's friends with some lesbians who see it as sort of a way that the patriarchy and traditional gender roles are being forced onto gay couples in this patronizing heteronormative way of making them appropriate straight culture in order to be accepted. Whatever, that nuanced debate. And she's in a conservative area, and so what's the main character's name? Amy. So Amy she's out with her friends, she's out with her family, her family's accepting, but she wasn't out at work. She doesn't like to come out to people immediately because she doesn't know how they'll respond. And when she's working these bridesmaids gigs, she doesn't tell anybody because she's scared that these brides will be homophobic and, she'll lose another job. But over the course of the novel, she sort of feels discontented with that. She feels like she's not living her authentic life. She feels like she's sort of contributing to this culture of discrimination. Like, I don't know, she's going to all these straight weddings knowing that her friends will never have a wedding like this, or thinking that. She sort of sees the hypocrisy. It doesn't always sit right with her. And the fact that she's pretending to be straight also just weighs on it more and more over time. There is a romance here. She meets this butch oil driller. She's not an oil driller. She works for the oil industry, but she works for environmental sustainability within the oil industry. So she's not evil. I quite liked her character. But yeah, she meets this other woman and they have a romance arc. So this is set in 2013. So and it's dealing with a political issue from that time period. And so this is sort of a historical novel in a way, which makes me feel really fucking old. You got some nice references to some 2013's bangers. Snapback hats, which were always ugly, never in fashion. Don't own a snapback hat. Because I had common sense. I saw the light immediately. That was never a good trend. There's multiple references to Tegan and Sarah in this book. She listens to them and she wears a Tegan and Sarah t-shirt at some point. I have a third Tegan and Sarah t-shirt, but it was in the back of my closet and I couldn't find it and I gave up. 2 is enough for the bit. Also, none of these shirts fit like they did in 2013, which was probably when I got them. But anyway, so this does take you back a whole 12 years. This was written in 2023, so it's kind of a period. I don't want to call a book from 2013 a period piece, but here we are. It's definitely retro. It's not retro. Nostalgic vibes that unfortunately might get a lot more relevant pretty soon. Anyway, so this book, it's okay. It's not the best. There's some things I liked about it. I didn't hate it. It's perfectly perfectly readable, but it's not the highest quality writing. I think the writing gets better as it goes along. I found the ending to be pretty good. Better than average quality for the rest of the book. The last quarter of this book, I feel like it really picked up and tied everything together really nicely, and was better written than the first 3/4 of it. There is a lot of telling in this book. So there's the writing concept of show don't tell, which I'm sure you've probably heard of if you're in book spaces at all. But it's the idea that you want all of the themes and the interactions and the personality and the exposition, you all want it in scene mostly. So you want to like learn these things as you go and just like pick up on these things from the characters. You don't just want all of this information handed to you. And this like hands you a lot of information. The pacing is kind of weird because this novel goes from in scene to just like outlines at really weird points. Like the first date between Charlie and Amy, like part of it is in scene. There's a nice scene where they go to like this, they call it like the center of the universe. It's like a hole in the ground that echoes, and it's, I don't know, I'm sure it's a real thing. But that's a really cute scene where they're like talking to each other in this like echoey cave or something. But the other half of the date is just like, and then they went on a picnic, and then Charlie told her about her family and her nieces and nephews, and like that's the scene. Like there's no dialogue of Charlie explaining her family and her nieces and nephews. It just says, and then Charlie talked about her nieces and nephews. It's like, that's boring. And there's a lot of that. And it goes in and out from scene to just exposition. It's not exposition, it's just, it feels like an outline. It's like, and this is what the scene is, and this is what the scene is. So it is like, it's like an outline. And it does that a lot. A lot. And you can never expect like when it's gonna come in and out. There's this long section, it's not that long, but it's a bit, where Amy is explaining her family Thanksgiving rules, and like there's always awards handed out for the best dishes, and she's saying this is what they cooked this year, and they're trying to win these categories, and last year they won these categories, and the meat award is always given to whoever's hosting, and you get all of this like backstory, and you're like, oh man, this is gonna lead up into like this big Thanksgiving scene where she's worried about her baking skills to win this competition, and also a lot of her family is homophobic. Her mom's not, but the rest of her family is, and so she's always dodging questions about her love life, and she's like, oh, how am I gonna explain it this year, you know, get out of it. Grandma's gonna try to set me up with a nice boy from her church. How do I get out of this? So you expect it to be this big blow up scene because they spend so much time talking about the lead up into the scene and giving you all this backstory, and then the scene is just like, and then they won 2 awards and no one really talked about Amy's love life because they were busy talking about something else, and it was fine. And I was like, okay. Like you did all that build up, all that exposition for like literally not even a scene, right? And like it didn't really matter. Like you probably could have like took all of that out because it wasn't a scene, you know? I want like the family drama. If you're gonna introduce that as a concept, put it in the book. So there's a lot of that, but I think in the final fourth it finally fades out. Like I feel like the final fourth was mostly actual scenes and actual like dialogue and real moments with the characters where you really saw them interact with each other and felt for them, and it was good. It got better as it went, but it wasn't super strong writing all the way through for sure. And because the writing's not that strong, it sort of, I think I read one review that called this kind of preachy. It's sort of telling you the problem. Like again, if we're gonna think of this as a period piece, you want to put your reader in 2013 in the situation where gay marriage is illegal and you can't express yourself legally with a legal document. You can't come out as easily as you could now. So you really want to feel that impact, and you just don't, because the writing is so distanced. Amy spends a lot of time thinking about, isn't this kind of fucked up that, you know, I'm not allowed to get married? I'm such a great wedding planner and I love weddings, but I'll never get married. Isn't that kind of fucked up? And she like theorizes about it, and thinks of it as sort of this concept. And I'm gonna compare this to the Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe, which is a actual historical novel about a teenage Asian American lesbian in the 1950s. So you have McCarthyism, more homophobia than there is nowadays. You have police raids to these gay clubs. And in that book, the main character, I forget her name, but she doesn't spend any time thinking about, wow, isn't it terrible that everyone's homophobic and that the police could raid this club? She doesn't think about that. She's just living her life, and she goes to this gay club with her friends, with her girlfriend, and like she makes friends and finds a community. And then one night, like, they get raided, and then she's like, oh shit, like, my girlfriend might have just gotten arrested last night. And so you as the reader, like you know, going in, like, oh yeah, it would suck to be gay in the 1950s. But reading it, you're so immersed and you're like, man, it would suck to be gay in the 1950s. Like, you really feel the impact because you feel this close connection to these characters. And in this book, you don't feel a close connection to these characters. They're very normal, forgettable people. Like, none of these people are super complex or super quirky. Again, you're not really, like, in these scenes with them. You're not getting all of this, like, high-stakes, constant drama. It's sort of just, it's just very distanced in tone, and so it just doesn't, you just don't feel the impact, even if you have personal experience. I was 11 in 2013. I remember being gay in 2013 and gay marriage not being legal where I live. I was there. I own the Tegan and Sarah t-shirt, but this book never really made me go, damn, it was terrible to live as a gay person in love in 2013 when you couldn't get married. I was just like, yeah, that sucked. Yeah, I was there. I remember that. So it just didn't have the impact that it could have if it had been written better and more closely, and you'd built a better connection with these characters. I didn't hate this book, though. Again, it's not the greatest writing in the world, but it's serviceable. You could read this. I wrote some things I liked. If you know me, I've talked about this on this channel a couple times. I'm very anti-alcohol. Amy does work as a bartender, which is something I wouldn't like, but she's doing it for money. Like, she literally needs the check. Like, she cannot pay her rent, and so I will forgive her for finding, like, the one job she can find at this gay bar, on short notice. I mean, she's been working there for a while, but, like, she does it to pay her bills. She doesn't do it because she loves serving alcohol. Although she does love the queer community, but I'm not gonna get into a rant about how the queer community shouldn't be so centralized on alcohol. It's not Amy's fault that the only gay communities that existed in 2013 were gay bars. And anyway. But her love interest, Charlie, doesn't drink. And she gives a speech about how she just doesn't like alcohol and doesn't really understand it, or doesn't like the effects, and how her brother struggled with substance abuse, and I don't know. I like that. That's just for me. That's just something I liked, is a sober character in a novel. There was also, I wrote down one line I liked, which maybe doesn't bode well for the writing quality of this book if there was one line that was good that really stuck out. But Amy ends up taking a bridal party to a gay bar, not on her idea. She actually feels very conflicted about it because she feels like all these straight women are coming to this gay bar to, like, look at all the gay people like zoo animals, you know? So she's conflicted about it, and she's like, she does a metaphor where she calls herself a big gay tour guide, where she talks about, I've forgotten it. I don't know. She does a line about leading, how she could if she were comfortable coming out to these people, she could guide them through queer culture. I forget what she said. It was a good line. Something about uh, put your armrest in the upright position and look over at the drag performers. I forgot the line. That's just on me. I just thought I'd remember the line. But there was one good metaphor in this book. Maybe that made it actually sound worse than I was trying. I was trying to give it a compliment, but maybe having one good metaphor is a bad sign of your book. There were other little things I didn't like. Amy says I love you way too soon. Like a couple weeks after she and Charlie start seeing each other, and they're not even like U-hauling it. They're like kind of taking it slow, and Amy just busts out with that. I'm like, you don't love her, you barely know her. So that was a little dumb, but at the end, she does sort of apologize. She was like, I was wrapped up in the wedding stuff. I've been thinking about marriage and love too much, and it came out a little early. So I liked that she apologized, even though I spent a good section of this book being like, you don't love her. Get over it. And she kind of gets into a dumb fight with her friend. Because one of her friends gets engaged right when she and Charlie do their third act breakup. And so she's complaining about her breakup. And her friend is like, you should be happy for me. You're always complaining about your love life. Even though I don't think she really complains about her love life that much. She kind of does in her head. She has this shitty ex-girlfriend who she dated 2 years ago, who like she sees sometimes in town because it's a small town. But I don't really think she talks about Autumn. Autumn's the ex's name. I don't think she talks about Autumn that much. Like she thinks about her in her head, or like maybe she'll see her somewhere, but she just like sort of avoids her. But her friend's like, you're always talking about your love life, and like you're always complaining about your exes, and I'm like, I don't know that she's actually doing that. So that felt like sort of a contrived third act friend breakup. But they get back together, it's cute, whatever. I mean, that would be annoying if she does do that off screen. If she does complain that much off screen, he had a point. Sure. This does get into some good themes about sort of being complicit, what not being out possibly conveys to people. It's a nuanced topic. She's not in any danger. Like she might lose a job or lose a client, but she could just get another one, in theory, right? She's not in any violent situation that would stop her from coming out. She's sort of just very reserved and scared to speak up for herself. And so over the course of the novel, she learns to grow and be more open about her sexuality and more outspoken, not only for herself, but to be a better example for some of the younger queer people she knows. That was a cute storyline. I do like some of the themes in this. Again, I liked the ending. The ending was the best part of this book. So I like where everything wrapped up and where everything went, and the lessons that were learned. And the character growth is pretty good. So it's an okay book. It's like 3 stars. I gave this like 2.75 stars. Just because it was lower than average quality writing for most of the book. And then the last bit's at least average. So it's fine. It's perfectly readable. If you want a 2013's blast from the past, it's pretty good. Really sets the vibe of the whole gay wedding cake fiascos. I remember the drama of gay wedding cakes and some bakeries refusing to make them. That's not in this book. They don't find out because they have a gay client that they refuse to serve, or I don't. It's just whatever. But it's reminiscent of that era of dumbassery from this country. But this is okay. I guess her and Charlie. It's not. It's more about Amy's character growth than it is a pure romance. Because again, they sort of break up when Amy starts moving too fast and Charlie's out of the picture for a while. And it's really about Amy being true to herself. So it's not just a romance, but there's a good amount of romance. And, you know, the whole theme is love and weddings and marriage. And, you know, it's a romance novel. They're cute together. I like their last scene. I like their first date, or like the part of it that you really get to see in the cave, or it's not a cave. I don't know what it is. I couldn't visualize it very well. I'll just have to like look it up because I'm assuming it's a real thing. But it's cute, and they have cute callbacks, and Charlie's pretty romantic, and like cute flowers, and I don't. That doesn't sound that romantic. That sounds like the bear fucking around. But I guess they're cute enough. It's not like a blow you away romance. These aren't like super memorable, unique characters. But it's fine. It's like a 3-star book. It's fine. It scratches a specific itch. I was in the mood for this. I've been reading a lot of really, really good sci-fi, queer sci-fi books. So I needed a junk food palate cleanser, forgettable romance. I was in the mood for this. It was fine. If you want to read a book about that era, and this premise sounds okay to you, it's okay. I don't think it would be my first recommendation for a sort of just sappy, cheesy romance novel, but it's okay for what it is. Queerly Beloved by Susie Dumond. I like the title. And the cover's kind of cute. It fits the vibe.